It is 7 o'clock in the morning, and the chirping sounds of crickets distinctly stands out of the general ambience over an expansive field of nicely chiseled carpet-like greenery. As I leopard through the foggy morning weather to make sense of the captivating impression, the trickling sound of water starts blending in. Yes, it is Doho One Rice Scheme, the pride of Butaleja, nearly 230 kilometers east of Kampala, the capital city of Uganda. It is splendid to see paddy rice at varying levels of maturity lying in the tunneling which directs water into the farmers' privately owned plots of land. The water channeled from River Manafa is available all the year round and easily accessed on demand. So, the farmers plant rice at their convenience, explaining why it is at varying levels of maturity. The scheme was built in the early 1970s by the government of Uganda to safeguard the paddy rice growing communities in Butaleja district against the unpredictable weather changes. Over 40% of the district, covering Bunyole East and Butaleja Town Council, is a vast wetland hosting a network of several seasonal rivers that originate from the neighboring districts, notably Namutumba district in the west, Tororo in the south, Budaka in the north, and Mbale in the east. So, this low-lying area offers a very conducive environment for paddy rice growing. Today, the population has more than tripled in the region, far beyond what the irrigation scheme could handle, yet until now, paddy rice remains the major source of livelihood for the majority of the grassroots communities. And so, they have reclaimed almost all the community wetlands, shattering the river banks as well as the entire watershed, heightening the threat of floods in the area at the onset of the rains, which not only destroy their crops but also makes the wetland inaccessible for a bigger part of the year. This disrupts all the farming activities, leaving a highly food insecure and poverty-stricken community.
In May, we had over 30% people who were having one meal in a day. It had improved because now the sweet potatoes were ready, the vegetables are ready, cassava, some have started eating. At least over 80% of the families were having two meals. But with the floods that have occurred now, we anticipate our food security has gone down. Some farmers were removing what they can from the water, but you could see that it is already rotten. We even had incidences where now families, even their stored food, some stored rice had been submerged in water.
Drought is yet another challenge affecting the communities, particularly those farming on the dry lands ashore.
Bino obuzibu bunene kuba omusana guyingira nnyo kuba ettaka lyaffe si ddungi lya musenyu nnyo. Webeera nkuba terwa kuyitamu, gubeera musana era nagwo era ettaka lyaffe terikuuma bunyogovu, egwamu mangu amazzi, kale ne tubeera mu mbeera embi kubanga nno mwe mbadde nsuubirira okufuna akawunga ke naaliridde paka ku mmere ey'omwaka ogujja.
Kati woolima emmere okungulamu obumeremere nga weebeesawo nnaku 3 mwezi gumu gwokubiri ng'ate oddayo mu njala. Gwa musana omusana gugenda ne gubeera mungi. Kasooli n'abeera wano ati nigwaka egenda ogamba nti etoonya. Kasooli eyononese era ng'otambulamu otambuza okunoonya kasooli. Nze kati oyo yinkanamba gye nalima oyo kati laba yinkanamba okugyamu oyo yekka
kilo 12
oba mu 3 oba mu 5.
It is in that perspective that the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Water and Environment, with funds from the African Development Bank, identified Butaleja district to benefit from the Farm Income Enhancement and Forestry Conservation Program, FIFOC2 for short, to construct another irrigation facility called Doho 2 Irrigation Scheme.
FIFOC as a project in Butaleja has 4 major components. We have agribusiness, we have the integrated natural resources management, we have infrastructure development, and then the management component that is basically between the district and the national project support unit. So under infrastructure development, we are constructing Doho 2, which is going to help people do irrigation of rice, because rice here in Butaleja is the major crop and of course a source of livelihood. We do it as a cash crop. So people have been doing it rudimentarily, but of course now with the infrastructure to control water, I think you are aware that Butaleja is one of the districts that is affected by flooding. With the control of water, these people can grow rice throughout the year.
If these schemes are in production, there will be no hunger. But also we are looking at increased incomes among our communities. Many youths are now getting involved in production. There is also an emphasis on natural resources and climate change mitigation. So all these interventions are aimed at achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And we don't have to forget that the National Development Goals are pointing to the Sustainable Development Goals.
The government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Water and Environment, contracted DOT services to tap the water from River Manafa and channel it to over 1,178 acres of land. Over 900 farmers are said to benefit from this new irrigation scheme.
Where we are right now, we have the barrage, the headworks. This was done in the first phase, which was Doho 1. Water is going to be tapped from these headworks at a discharge of 2.4 cubic meter per liter, which will be quite enough to irrigate downstream through the main canal, which will supply to 2 secondary canals. We have secondary canal 1 and secondary canal 2. Then from the secondary canals, water will cross into the tertiary canals. We have regulators on the secondary canals which are controlled. It will enter into the tertiary canals, and again it will be controlled, from which it will enter into the field canals, which will be controlled also by the farmers. We have a special feature in this scheme which didn't happen in the first phase, that our secondary canals are lined so that we don't lose a lot of water by seepage, and erosion does not occur on those canals, so that water continues to flow steadily into the farms. We don't have a reservoir for this project, just because the ground is flat, and there's no way we can get water from the reservoir to take it to the field. But what is available in the river will be enough to cater for the needs of the farmers in this area.
The beneficiaries of Doho 2 must also set up water user committees to regulate the distribution and efficient use of the water, and above all, to ensure that the draining channels are maintained regularly.
The facility can only stand under strict supervision, and that will only happen if the farmers and those that are assigned the responsibility of overseeing the activities of this facility do their roles. It is known that all blocks are going to receive water at the same time, It's like it's continuous. One block receives, then it is closed, another block receives, then another, until the whole field is covered.
But how prepared are they to undertake this responsibility?
Kati erimu blocks nga 2 mwezi mu 2. Kati buli block egenda kubeeramu n'obukulembeze obwo bwe bugenda kuleeta information wano ku head office. Kino kyetaagisibwa. Tukolere wamu nga bagogola amachano wiki enguudo batereza wiki amaazi nga galabiriwa mu bulungi. Skimu ng'etambula mu maaso.
If only this was the spirit in which the communities received the project, it would have been completed within the stipulated 2 years. But the journey to start met resistance from the would-be beneficiaries. Reason: the project has been built on solely private-owned people's land, and the activities had to come on a standstill for 2 years to enable the construction works to move on swiftly. But the proposal was received with mixed feelings and fears, particularly when it was rumored that beneath the good ideas lay the veiled risk of the government planning to dislodge them of their land completely.
It was political. People rioted. They had a negative concept and negative feeling towards the project. So it took us time as leaders. We just stood boldly to defend. Otherwise, the project wouldn't have commenced. The meeting was even held at the ministry's office. Kampala, we also had a meeting with the security minister at the district, discussing the same issue with this same person. The politician is also involved. It was from that meeting that we resolved, when we come on the ground, she will stand up boldly and declare that members, we must all support the project. And this meeting was held at Kangalaba Health Center 3. The meeting involved the RPC, VISO, DPC, other DC, every stakeholder in the district and outside this district. So that's where she declared and said all of us members should support the project. From today, if you antagonize the project, it is upon you. I'm saying let's all support. The project is good.
Yes, the leader was forced to withdraw her wrong statements, but the people who had received and believed her message needed another level of counsel to completely disregard it. So the government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Water and Environment, and that of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, engaged IESA East Africa and Governance Systems International to offer the much-needed implementation support to the farmers and all the stakeholders towards the success of the project as follows. Mobilize the farmers and all the stakeholders to be able to establish participatory farmer-based organizations which will eventually foster commercially viable irrigation services for the users of the irrigation schemes. Number 2, to establish sustainable institutional management arrangements for the irrigation schemes based on farmer management organizations and value chain development of the irrigated commodities. And number 3, to bring together all the stakeholders, amongst them the local communities, representatives from the focal government ministries from the center, district, technical and political leadership up to the sub-county level, as well as the cultural and religious leaders to support and actively participate in the various activities geared towards the successful construction and management of the irrigation schemes. Henceforth, IESA East Africa and Governance Systems International used different approaches to achieve the above goals. For example, a team of sociologists traversed radio stations running awareness messages and opened up different feedback platforms to engage directly with the beneficiary communities on the different issues relating to the project.
So, abantu ba Doho 2 babadde balowooza nti esikiimu tegenda ettaka eno lyamwe era gavumenti yabawadde ssente ng'obuyambi okuyamba ki
okuyamba abantu kuba temwesobola kuba na wano Doho 1 twamala emyaka 2 nga tetulima abantu tubeera bubi nnyo naye saawa eno abantu bali kusomesa abaana abantu bali kuzimba abalala bakola byabwe kuba.
They supplemented the radio shows with community meetings through which to engage directly with the different user community members to answer the topical questions and or resolve worries that may slow down the uptake of the project. Music, dance and drama shows were also used to stimulate the uptake of information and learning amongst the community members. So, IESA and Governance Systems International trained the local people to be able to perform music, dance and drama skits, blending the norms and values of the society within the different aspects of the project seamlessly. For example, this skit is emphasizing the need for the communities to live responsibly by testing and knowing their HIV status. The health officials are always ready at the venue to offer the voluntary testing and counseling services, a key message in the drama, just in case the people react in that direction.
We have a new policy of test and treat. Once you are tested HIV positive, you are supposed to be started on what? On treatment there then. So those ones who test HIV positive, we really support them, we counsel them to start treatment because it is scientifically proven that once somebody who has tested HIV positive starts treatment, the viral load in the saturation is tremendously cut down and his rates of transmitting to others is really reduced. So far I've had about four drama shows and trust me, the turn-up has been good. People have tested. We want to continuously do this so that we have a healthy community all through.
Arising out of this effort, many members now appreciate that actually the government is investing in the irrigation scheme towards their overall well-being.
Wadde tumanyi nti embeera egizeemu bweti naye ejja kutereera bwe baba bamaze emirimu agric egenda kubeera nnungi kuba kati tujja kubeera n'amaazi ag'olubeerera amaazi wabadde tegatuuka nti gajja kutuukayo kale n'olaba nti improvement y'obulimi egenda mu maaso.
I thank the government for this because it's a long time. We demanded for water to come here for over a long time as an appendage on Doho Rice Scheme 1. And it took us a long time. So when finally our request is answered, we are happy. And definitely it's going to, this scheme is going to change the well-being of the people here. Their income levels will go up, so we are very happy about that.
They have since decided to start a circle to tap into the benefits of working together, such as having a stronger collective voice to attract government support in terms of technical advice and finances, and to earn more from their produce through collective marketing, amongst other benefits. IESA, East Africa and Governance Systems International also organized exchange visits between the community leaders and the farmers' representatives from Mobuku and Doho irrigation schemes to share into each other's experiences on how best to manage and maximize these newly acquired irrigation facilities.
Because they had already started growing rice. So government came in with the assistance of the Chinese experts.
Abadoho wano twagendayo ne twebuuzako ne batuukako mu pulaani ekitegeeza nti tuli wamu nawo.
These, alongside the local meetings, they organized regularly in the different sites for the different stakeholders to have an on-spot assessment of the progress, have also contributed immensely in building a consensus and bringing all the major actors on board to actively participate and own up on the success so far attained.
Every month we have site meetings And in these site meetings, we share what the contractor is doing on site. Not only sharing, but we go and see. We do the monitoring of this site. We see the different things that are being done. Of course, with the different specialities, we have the engineers on board, we have the agriculture people on board, and everybody puts in his input there and then. So it is during this time that we share what the contractor has done, then we tell him where things are not moving well.
And also, we share concerns from various stakeholders. We look for or search for solutions and prescribe. The community, for example, is told on what they are supposed to do, and this information is disseminated to the communities.
The major challenge that still stands is the delayed compensation of the project-affected persons.
So if we can sort out that issue of compensation, then in the group 1, compensation report number 1, we have around 60 pounds, and the amount of money required is 68 million shillings plus. And also in the second report, we have around the 97 pubs who are still demanding money from us, and this totals to 122 million shillings for the second report. So when you add both reports, you get 191 million shillings plus. So that's where I only see as still an issue.
Secondly, majority of the beneficiaries of the irrigation scheme still have the mentality that rice cannot exist with trees because they act as resting places for birds which destroy their rice, especially at milking stage. So they have cut down almost all the trees in order to deny the birds their resting perches. The leaders are encouraging them to, alongside their rice fields, to plant bamboo in the watershed and on the river banks to also achieve the benefits of their reforestation campaign promoted by the second FIFOC project, and to start planting rice at the same time to increase the acreage under rice to minimize the impact of the birds if spread over expansive fields of rice.
For us, we have a plan to continue training, encouraging them, sharing with them what is happening somewhere, like this Doho 1. Some farmers were picked and taken to a number of areas, like in Senegal. At least you would see that, yes, there are trees coexisting with what? With the rice. So at least one block is under experiment. We have done the uniform planting. What is remaining is now planting the trees along the what? The banks.
Last but not least, as these benefits continue taking shape, IESA, East Africa and Governance Systems International, will go and leave the communities to maximize the benefits for which the irrigation schemes have been established. So, the sooner the communities realize that the investments are truly theirs, the easier it will be for them to start now when they still have the support to streamline the process.
Yes, people have appreciated, but then their capacity development that we are going to carry out. For example, training them on how to keep records. They have formed groups to train the leadership to understand. For example, our next activity is going to work with them to come up with a development plan for the scheme. Now that they have a scheme, they have the leaders. So the leaders now, we are going to go into a visioning process. How do they want to see their scheme in the next 3 or 5 years or 10 years? And as a result of that visioning process is what is going to inform our capacity development process, where we are going to say, okay, now this is where they want to go. Now, what are the capacity gaps to make them achieve their vision? However, building the capacity for the effective and efficient operation of these farmer structures, the capacity development is supposed to go beyond what we are doing. There is a lot that they need to learn. Some of them are technical aspects. For example, there is what we call the FFS methodology, Farmer Field Schools methodology. Is a very intensive approach to strengthening the farmer structures, very intensive, which is not part of our scope. So we want to, as we come to the end of the project, we want to advise the Ministry of Water and Environment and of course Ministry of Agriculture to come up with a new proposal. It can even be a 5-year project just basically to do that, if we are going to have these structures efficiently performed.